Become a better personal trainer by becoming a better man. Become a better man by applying knowledge from others who've walked across the fire and have a thing or two to say about it. Listen to Joe as he delves into some of the greatest minds of the best coaches in the world, who bring inspiring stories and powerful insights to share about the human condition. Hear how the fitness industry goes only muscle deep, and how a new breed of trainers are using emotional and mindset hacks to improve as men, evolve their game, and make the competition irrelevant. Trigger your pathway to greater fulfillment. With us, stand in the face of fitness. Welcome to the Fit Man Collective.
Welcome to the Fit Man Collective podcast show. I'm Joe Hanney, your host and founder of the Fit Man Collective. This is a show that helps you become a better personal trainer by becoming a better man, a fit man. On today's show, I'm pleased to announce that my guest goes by the name Jonathan Perks. Jonathan is the CEO's trusted leadership advisor and coach. When it comes down to increasing your profit, enhancing your influence in the marketplace, finding your true purpose, your personal branding and reputation, and overall just becoming a better person and coach to your clients, this episode will no doubt bring you insight, practical tips, perhaps even a different perspective to your current situation. Jonathan's experience being on both sides of the fence, having hired personal trainers for himself and his wife, and also being a truly magnificent coach himself. This episode offers a really refreshing point of view on what you can really do and achieve as a personal trainer, if you put your mind to it. Before we jump into the show, I want to say a huge thank you. Even though I'm a partner in this business, this episode is brought to you by Organo Gold Coffee. If you'd like to learn about or even sample this healthy coffee that contains this Ganoderma lucidum, which is a rare mushroom that's used to promote health and well-being, not only in yourself, but also your clients, then head over to the Fitman Collective podcast page at www.thefitmancollective.com. Click on the free sample link and I'll get these sent to you as soon as possible. Hey Jonathan, welcome to the show. How are you?
I'm very well indeed, thanks Joe.
Great. Just for the audience that are listening to the Fitman Collective podcast show, could you please just give them a broad overview of who you are and what you're all about?
Okay, Joe. So first let me talk about myself and my wife, Lee Bowman-Perks. We're trusted leadership advisors to CEOs, public figures, top teams and boards. And we've set up the Institute of Inspiring Leadership, which combines the charity work we do, because we find many leaders want to put something back into society as well as do their look after their physical fitness and aspects of what your trainers would be very interested in. But they want to put something back. So we set up the Inspiring Leadership Trust for disadvantaged women and children in both in London and also in Kenya, South Africa, and Nepal. But the work that we do is speaking, facilitation, one-on-one trusted leadership advisor, coaching and mentoring. We love bringing in the sort of latest thinking. I'm off next week to Harvard on one of their leadership programs to learn more about the latest on leadership, but also neuroscience. And together with Dr. Reuven Bar-On, we've designed a psychometric test and around what makes inspiring leaders. And a particular theme for today is that we've been trained up and have been using for a long time the thinking environment, which was designed by Nancy Klein. And indeed, I'm spend the day with Nancy tomorrow.
Excellent. I'm very jealous of you or envious of you meeting Nancy Klein. Yeah, I read the book Time to Think, studied quite extensively, really took it to practice and reaped the benefits from that myself. In regards to the inspiring leadership that you do, Jonathan, it's based around 8 principles. Is that correct?
Yes. I mean, if I perhaps explain very briefly, the whole theme behind inspiring leadership, I was 20 years an Army officer, and then 15 years ago, came into business. I've been a managing director of a PLC. I've been in PricewaterhouseCoopers and IBM as a consultant and leadership coach. And I work with some of the sort of top brands around the world. Are very fortunate, whether they be names that people have heard of or not. But just to give you a bit of a flavor of some of the clients I work with or have worked with, people from Facebook, Microsoft, Amazon, O2, Vodafone, Coca-Cola Enterprise, Mars, John Lewis, Tesco, Sainsbury's, University of Cambridge, Emirates, IBM, KPMG, Siemens, Barclays, HSBC. So a whole range of really great clients to work with. But Lee, she brings a wealth of experience in having been in the heart of some businesses like Barclays and HSBC and Centrica. What was it that made the most inspiring leaders that create high performance and bring out the potential in people? So both of us have written books from the research that we've done. Mine was called Inspiring Leadership, leadership lessons from my life, from my blunders and mistakes that I've made and what I've learned on the way. And I think I'm very great believer in stoical philosophy. There's much you can talk at length about that, particularly with personal trainers. It's a key aspect, a key philosophy. So that was my book. And Lee was fascinated on what made inspiring women leaders and what is it brings women on, perhaps confidence issues that hold them back. So her book was Inspiring Women Leaders that came out recently. And in 2 months' time, we're publishing our next book, which is a pocket book of wisdom called Top Tips for Inspiring Leaders. And I think that would be particularly of interest to the trainers because they're little sort of one-liners or 2 or 3-liners with some really useful, practical tips that people can apply. Mm-hmm. Making it practical, Joe, we thought, what was it that was the heart of the research that led into what makes inspiring leaders? We worked with Dr. Reuven Bar-On from America and Israel, and we've designed a psychometric to measure it. It's an online tool that people can take from my website, and it allows them to think about these 8 elements that you mentioned. I could talk about them in more detail if you'd like. Would that be helpful?
Yeah, perfect. I relate to a lot of what you've just said, and I'm sure that the trainers will also, especially the elements or principles that people might not quite recognize will be a limiting factor in their overall development.
I think you're spot on. And I've had a personal trainer, Andy Henson. Mm-hmm. We worked with him for 2 years. He trained Lee and myself. We had weekly sessions. He actually came to our house and we converted the garage into a gym. I've got a running machine in there and weights and all the kit. And we've both done triathlons, coming up to 55. And Lee's a little younger than me. But we just thought we did those to raise money for the charity. Excellent. So once a year, I'm going to be doing it until I'm 62. I'm going to be doing a triathlon every year. I'll review it at 62 and see how I get on. Talking
of triathlon, sorry, Jonathan, for interrupting. Yeah. I'm doing my first one this year.
Congratulations. Congratulations. No, but it's great. I've done 3 now and I'm really hooked. But I just promised only to do 1, otherwise a year. Otherwise you get a bit obsessed about it, the bike and the running. But Lee's had a very inspiring trainer working with her, who's not only is he a great trainer she's doing weights. I mean, she can lift 80, she can squat 80 kilos. That's lifting me. I mean, This is a small, slim lady who's like tiny, but she's lifting 80 kilos. So her trainer's a guy called Nathan Newton Willington, and he's started his own blog and his own site about food and nutrition. I think really, really inspiring guy. All this work was leading us to what are these 8 principles. So the first one that we found key to what people do is your true north. What's your we call these all quotients, so they're MQ, PQ, and so on. MQ was the moral quotient, and on our website, if people have a look, jonathanperks.com, they can see the compass, click round it, and the compass needle moves and tells them a bit about each. The key thing is, what's your integrity? What is it, whether you're a personal trainer or whether you're one of their clients, what is it they will do or they won't do? What are their values and the principles they'll live by, the ethos they've been brought up by their parents? The second one is PQ. What gives your life meaning and purpose? And many of the clients that you're working with, that's perhaps certainly when they're getting in their 40s and their 50s, the big issue. What is my life about? I'm successful, I'm doing well, I've got my own personal trainer, but what is my life about? And that can have some very powerful conversations. Also, actually, for your listeners, what is their life purpose? Because if you haven't got your act together, if you haven't got your shit together, how can you help to train anybody else if you're in a mess? So actually, I've known a number of personal trainers who through reading the book, it really made them think about what they were like as inspiring leaders. Because you've got to inspire, you've got to breathe life into those you're with. And you can't do that if you're all over the place yourself. It's just like having someone waddle up to the weights and say, come on, you need to work harder. And they're not doing it themselves. So getting your meaning and purpose, that PQ, sort of that's important. The listeners will be pleased to know that HQ, health quotient, is one of the elements. And we're very big into mental and physical health and well-being. And in our next book, Top Tips, we've got a lovely cartoon of someone wallowing in a sea of toxic waste, and someone more healthy, a younger woman, more healthy, jumping out of it and choosing not to stay in that toxic environment. But it's not only what you're eating and putting into your body and the nutrition you have, but it's actually the attitude you have, mindfulness and thinking well about yourself. I've got a book, a diary I do each morning called the 5-Minute Journal about, what I want to focus on and appreciation. So there's a whole mental attitude behind that. That's the HQ. The fourth area is IQ. It's intelligence, but it's not just being bright. I perhaps might have been described, I thought myself thick for many years. My teacher at school when I was 7 told me I was thick because I couldn't do my maths. I couldn't spell. Turned out I was dyslexic, but she didn't tell me that at the time.
Quite typical, isn't it?
I know, but I've since gone on to prove the bugger wrong by doing an MA and MBA and being a visiting professor on the MBA program at Cass Business School, because I'm determined to prove that I wasn't stupid. But it's IQ is not, it's not how intelligent are you, it's just how are you intelligent. That very good TED talk by Ken Robinson. Look at anything that he does on TED, brilliant. But how do you get your wisdom and judgment? That's what we look at IQ on. EQ, big one for all trainers. And the best trainers that I've worked with, really, really good at reading people, having a good, healthy relationship with their clients so they understand the issues that are going on. Reading when they're up, when they're down, the small micro signals, like there's a very good book called What Everybody Is Saying by Joe Navarro about reading body language. So EQ is using your emotions intelligently. The final three, RQ, resilience, bouncing back from adversity. And I'm sure all the listeners have had many setbacks and disappointments. And indeed, if you haven't, you need to start learning from mistakes. Because if you think you're the golden man or woman who never makes a mistake, you've got a problem in that itself, because you've got to learn. And I made so many mistakes over the years. Hopefully I don't repeat them all too many times, but that's given me the strength to be the person I am today. And it's what leaders value, the experiences and the setbacks that I've had, whether it be in the army or business. The last two, brand, BQ, key for a personal trainer. What is your brand, reputation, image, impact? What do you like on social media? What do people say about you when you're not in the room? A lot of the referrals that I've had with personal trainers is because someone else says they're good and I respect them, and that's meant I've trained with them. And finally, LQ, legacy. What are you leaving behind you? What sustainable difference have you made? And this is where we do the charity work, but I think that's a key part. So those are the 8 components of inspiring leadership. And very briefly, within the inner circle are 4 elements. Myself, so what are you doing to develop yourself, improve yourself? My relationships, how are those going? My organization, who are you working for? And my society, what am I putting back into the community and into society? So, Joe, that's hopefully a whistle-stop tour of the model we've designed and the tool.
Yeah, and I love that model. I briefly looked at it on your website, that compass, looked at the different meanings behind the words and the principles, and I fully appreciate the work that's gone into this, based on listening to what you've just said, but also going through my own journey and coming to realise that I wasn't quite as smart as I thought I was, or things were limiting me. I went out there and then started asking questions a bit similar to what probably yourself did. And then it led me down a path of real self-discovery. So I love the fact that you've included 8 different principles, because it covers almost everything. I suppose what I wanted to bring your attention back to, being that we're talking to personal trainers, is their health and well-being. I know they may have this already down, should we say, but maybe to a point of too obsessive, so they neglect or create further blind spots in their lives they're not quite aware of, would you say, from the trainers that you work with?
Definitely. So one or two of the trainers, they're going through turmoil in their own lives because they haven't worked out what gives their life meaning and purpose. They perhaps thought they could be a personal trainer, doesn't make enough money for them. Mm-hmm. How else do they increase their clients? Then they find they're scrabbling around in their own relationship with their partner, or they get through various partners, and a couple of them have been very much focused on body image rather than actually who's behind it. So they get into some pretty messy relationships and then come out of them. But they never learn from it for themselves. What was my part in what went on? And how am I going to be different? So I think that humility to learn from your mistakes. But these days, everything is very integrated. So as a personal trainer, you're bringing your whole self to the training with your client, and they're bringing their whole self to you. Now, they may want to just focus on building up muscle strength or general fitness or training for like I do, training for a triathlon. But also they're going to open up if you're trustworthy enough and you can keep confidence. They're going to open up about their whole life. I certainly know my wife talks with Nathan about a whole range of things from sort of fitness and nutrition and, what's going on. They just chat.
Yeah.
And so you've got to be able to handle that. So you become a trusted advisor, and you need to be able to hold that and model it. They're learning you and how you show up and how you behave and your willingness to learn. And I think the point that you made so beautifully, Joe, is that you've got to keep learning. I mean, as a reformed dyslexic who's sort of learning how to do things, someone said to me once, if you read the average person in the UK reads one non-fiction book a year, average person. So if you read 2, you're almost an expert in a subject. Well, I make a point of reading about 30 books a year. Now, I don't read them. I listen to them on Audible, audible.co.uk. I download books on neuroscience, on leadership. Going to Harvard is an investment I'm making in my development so I can help others. So I would really encourage your listeners to read as much and apply what they've learned. It's no good just spouting rubbish, but actually live it yourself. That's what people will be impressed by.
And you're one of the first people that I've heard more or less agree with what I've been saying in regards to trainers not having their whole shit together, if that makes sense. So how hypocritical is it of you, of a trainer, to help a client if you don't really have it fully, you don't fully own your own story, if that makes sense?
Completely. To build on that, Joe, I knew that I had to get to a good place so I can be the best I can be to help my clients. And there's another good book called Key Person of Influence by Daniel Priestley. What's your perfect pitch? What are your products? What's your profile? Who are the partnerships that you're working with? And are you an author? Have you written something? Mm-hmm. And I found in that, sorting my own life out, the work I'm doing now really on purpose, with having met and married Lee, I've now found my soulmate. And so everything in my life is very aligned. I'm who I am at work and who I am in my home life. The two are the same. I'm not disconnected and acting a part that isn't me. And I think it's important that your personal trainers model it. People can sniff out bullshit. They sense whether you're living what you talk about. And you go, well, it's good for you, but I don't do it. People don't buy that.
100% agree with that. And we're going to talk about how we set up environments to enable clients to feel empowered to share stories like you've explained about how your wife shares with her trainer, etc. But just before we move on, I want to kind of bring you back to the whole point about, I've lost my thought. I'll come back to it. So what I like to do is for the trainers that are listening, I suppose I'm not trying to create an excuse for them, but the industry standards are not that regulated. They're not, should I say, that credible. And I think the learning or the knowledge stops at learning how to put together an exercise program. You may learn a bit of nutrition, but there's never really, from what I know in my experience, any information on the client's mindset or the client's lifestyle, or even some of the principles that we've spoke about already, or even just setting an environment for trainer clients to sit down and have a discussion. For instance, at best, the consultation that they may or may not have will be at most a few questions about their health. Nothing about goal setting or looking at what their real purpose is, their real reasons why that clients came to you, not the superficial stuff on the surface goals. What have they really came to you for? So it does come down to the trainer to take upon themselves to develop themselves and learn more about this. But that's one of the main reasons why I brought you on the call today, because of the learnings from the thinking environment. So how beneficial has that been to you in your business in regards to really getting to understand your client and yourself, so that the trainers, we can give the insight to the trainers to further, to make them curious, to go searching for more information about this thinking environment that we're going to be talking about?
Yeah. Joe, I was trained by Nancy, and she is probably one of the wisest people I've come across. She's now in her 70s, and just she continues to want to learn. And so I know at the workshop we have with her tomorrow, which there'll be about 30 other people who've been trained in the thinking environment, that she'll bring some new and some fresh ideas. And it's almost like a way of being the thinking environment. So literally, if you can be a thinking environment for your client when you're a personal trainer, you will have so much more repeat business, so much more success. And if you're scrabbling to get the money in, and it's all about just churning through large volumes of clients, perhaps in a gym like Virgin Active where I go, where, you've got to pay them for use of the gym. And then at the end of the day, you're not left with an awful lot. So actually, in a way, the ultimate is just like in my own work as a leadership coach, I'm lucky to be in the sort of top quartile of people who work in this area. So just like this whole theory of the key person of influence, when you become influential in your industry, you get well paid as well. So I've seen personal trainers go up the scale of what they actually get paid, and perhaps they set up their own center, as you say, and they can charge clients more for their time. But then
Sorry for interrupting. Yeah. That was my point that I was going to elaborate on. And you touched on, I've read that book also. And by the trainer taking it upon themselves to develop themselves even further, it does create that uncontested market space because of what we just spoke about. At best, trainers probably know exercise and nutrition prescriptions, but nothing more. And by adding further value to yourself, which then is a knock-on effect to what services you can provide, that key person of influence just creates that uncontested market space for that trainer, because it is an aggressive industry. So that was my point. And sorry for interrupting, considering that we're talking.
No. It's a great point. And just thinking about, as I say, I've worked with many personal trainers. I have a real respect for the industry, but I respect those at the top of the game. Mm-hmm. I don't respect those who are just coming in and just going through the motions. Just churning you through as if you're, stack 'em high, just quickly getting through next session, hour after hour. But then when you go back for repeat sessions, there's not much to them. There's not much substance. And actually, as a personal trainer, you've got to have that. This is why both the inspiring leadership compass with all the elements of that, how you show up because you are a leader. As a personal trainer, you are a leader. You may have no one in your team, it may just be you, but a leader's got to persuade people to do things they don't want to do and make them feel good about it. But of course, you've also got to get to know in the mindset of the person you're with, why are they here? Really, come on, really, why are you here? What's this really about? Is it about having the beach body? Is it about self-esteem? Is low confidence? You don't feel good about the gut that you've got, and you want to get rid of it, or you want to tone up, or whatever it is, or just be fit for life. Why are you really here? And of course, you can't get into that in the first session. You haven't built up the trust and the confidence. But after a while, the presenting issues of why they're here, that you get behind that mask into the real reasons. Now, if you've got sort of more to you and you can use this thinking environment as a way of connecting with them, then you're going to find you're trustworthy. They're going to open up to you, and you can bring more to the relationship than just a quick routine of just, go down, do, a few mountain climbers, and then do a few sit-ups, and then do a few squats and a few bench presses. Next. No, it's got to be more than that. Does that make sense to you, Joe?
Makes perfect sense. Yeah.
Okay, so what else would be useful to know about the thinking environment? Should I perhaps share a couple of stories and how people could use it? Would that be helpful?
Yeah, that would be perfect. And then we can touch on, which I'm sure will come out of that explanation, the 10 components, the main component of the thinking environment. Okay. How that helps you build that trust and pull out information from the client that you wouldn't quite necessarily get, because, and I don't want to step on your toes and give away too much information before we go into it, but it's from a position of creating a thinking space for the client to come up with their own solutions, right? Rather than who's telling, which I'm sure you're going to go into a whole lot more now.
Exactly. No, and it is literally a way of being, and there is. I found once Nancy had trained that. Okay, so I'm not actually jumping in and telling them what to think and giving them lots of stuff, and I'm only adding value if I'm speaking at them all the time. I've come across some very irritating personal trainers who just talk at you constantly. A lot of it's dribble from the wrong orifice, but it's pouring out of them. So, but there's others who have just a few words of wisdom, but the skill is that they're fascinating you, and they almost have the attitude of everyone has something to teach me. Every one of my clients has something to teach me if only I would listen to it. And I've come across a number who are really just fascinated by it. I can see it. They're interested in their clients and they're learning from their clients, which then helps their next relationship with the next client because they've got greater understanding. So this thing about how you show up so that you are really curious and listening, and you're listening to ignite their thinking is what Nancy talks about, rather than reloading and just talking over them or whatever, and just grunting and nodding and pretending you've heard, but then go on with your own agenda. So she's designed these, the 10 components of the thinking environment. The first one is attention. This is described as listening to people with palpable respect, with interest in where they're going to go next, without any interruptions. So a great question is, what do you want to think about? And what are your thoughts? Or tell me what's going on for you. And just zip it and listen. Just to hear them through. The second component is equality. And that's where you see that you each can take turns in talking. And you can even say this. You can set up, how about we, just go a minute each way. What's going on for you? And I'll tell you some thoughts and then what's next. This, seeing them as your equal rather than your superior or your inferior, that we're all humans. We all sit the same way on the lavatory seat. Let's treat each other as equals. A third component is ease. This being free from rush or urgency. I don't know about you, Joe, but I know when someone is listening to me and they seem to have all the time in the world and they're just calm and they're grounded, you just calm down too. I mean, I'm very interested in the health and well-being aspects of, Joe Wicks and some of the stuff he does. And then, juices. I've just been drinking my juice, which I've blended up from another personal trainer who's got into juicing and has written books on it. But a lot of it also, I'm looking at heart rates. I've got, I put the blood pressure monitor on my clients. I look at the Heart Math Institute, which looks at the beat-to-beat variation in your heart. And when you're in a good place, you're really thinking well, and it's a coherent heart rate pattern. There's a whole area of health and well-being which gives physical athletes become corporate athletes. So I'm a complete believer, and this is the whole idea behind inspiring leadership. In Spiritus is to breathe life into you. You're actually in the energy business. You're not in the personal training business. Yes. And you've got to have energy as a personal trainer, great amount of personal energy, both physically and mentally, but you're transferring energy and inspiration to your clients, who in turn take that back to their work and their job and training for whatever activity it is. So there's others I can talk about in the 10 components, but I think the only other one I would particularly mention is appreciation, and an appreciation of the 10 components. This is, catching other people doing things right, seeing what you notice in them that's good and encouraging them. And I've just been in a meeting with a client, a managing director of a business in the defense industry. And we always end our sessions with, let's end with appreciating one quality about each other in today's meeting. And there's no reason why your personal trainers can't end their sessions with appreciating a quality about each other. The trainer appreciates a quality about the client, and the client appreciates a quality about the trainer. And that's live feedback, which then helps the personal trainer to know what is working and what clients appreciate, and to create the virtuous loop of doing more of what works. How about that, Joe? Is that
That's perfect. Yeah, and I'm just going to add to that, just to give the trainers that are listening to kind of step into their shoes so they fully understand what we're talking about, and they appreciate this on a whole different level. So the appreciation, will start at the appreciation which you elaborated on there, and you're quite right. I think trainers jump they're quite quick to jump down a client's throat in regards to either not doing something that they've asked them to do, not following through on something, whether that be food journals, attending the gym, and the list is pretty endless. But when they do something well, they're not as quick to show their appreciation. And that's a big factor that I'd like trainers that are listening just to consider, even if it's they've trained clients today or just yesterday, just to think about, did they actually show any kind of appreciation to their client for what they did or tried to do? Because they got to appreciate that these clients are not as obsessed about their bodies and health as they are. They've not been in the industry for 10, 12 years. So it's going to take a lot more for them to come to create habits, etc. The appreciation also is very similar to your I think you said your 5-minute routine in the morning is, again, just being grateful, having gratitude. I do the same with a morning routine. I also do the same in the evening, just to appreciate what I've achieved for that day. So yeah, I think that's vitally important. The whole attention, and this is the one that really stood out to me personally, was I was under the impression that I did give people attention, but when Nancy shares some examples of tapping my fingers, looking at my phone, being more interested in what's going on around me, interrupting sentences, trying to come up with the answer for them, I was absolutely not paying attention. So I could understand why clients didn't feel as appreciated or wasn't feeling empowered to follow through on what was being asked. Didn't do anything for themselves, and I didn't really provide an environment for them to feel confident. And that's where I wanted to add, really, so the trainers could put themselves in my shoes and just think about what we've just said, to fully appreciate the power of these. I know you only shared 3 components, but there's 10. Can you add to that, Jonathan?
I would, and I think one of the other components is diversity, and that you respect difference. And I think the best trainers that I've been with are really present with you. Okay. So they are actually studying your form, watching your back, for example. So, I was trained with the airborne in the army. I had a very bad landing, which really knackered my back. And so I therefore have to really manage that. If I'm doing a deadlift or a bench press, or not a bench press, or a squat, I could easily put my back out. And so they're really watching those micro signs of your form, but also they're interested in cues from you. And when you're talking, they're really listening, rather than, if they've got their act together and they're good at it, they know what the next routine is going to be, rather than you see them lose interest because they're thinking about what to do with you next, because they're making it up on the hoof. That's not necessarily, doesn't give you as a client that feeling that they really care. And the key word, I think, in this is dignity, that you really have a sense of dignity when someone sees you and they hear you. And this is what is so powerful with the thinking environment, is you really get a thoroughly good listening to, rather than a thoroughly good talking to, which is what most personal trainers, if they don't really become present with their client, it's all about them and their image and how great they are, and bragging about how good they are. But the really good ones, it's not about them at all. It's all about you. And they're just really grounded, really calm, and very inspiring by adopting the mode of less is more.
Yeah, and I actually wrote a quote down from your website, I believe it was, where you mentioned focus on doing less and being more. It's a great quote, and it's something I'm going to share at some point this week. So yeah, great point. And again, for the trainers that are listening, if you find yourself in a position where clients are not quite listening to what you're asking or following through on certain things, and it's not just been the first time, it's probably 2 or 3 more times, then definitely give what me and Jonathan are speaking about some further thought and do some further research. I'll include the links and the show notes, etc. At the fitmancollective.com website. Jonathan, I'm curious for your time. We spoke a great deal about the inspiring leadership, the time to think, creating thinking environments. Do you have any lasting wisdom for the trainers that are listening? Because I really like the fact that you've worked with trainers, you've studied trainers, you have that experience, you're into health and well-being yourself. What lasting advice, wisdom would you give trainers? Would you leave trainers with? And then could you please provide contact details so that trainers could find out more about yourself and your services?
Okay. I think that the key learning is that being a role model, the motto at Sandhurst when I was an instructor in the Military Academy of Sandhurst was serve to lead. And I think my wisdom would be, you are in the service business and you are there to really make a difference in the lives of your clients. That if you can touch the life of even one of your clients, that you fundamentally get to them so that they're inspired by you to want to get fitter, to eat better, to change their whole body composition and just their lifestyle because of meeting you. And they look at you and they go, I really like the way he or she shows up. I think that would be my wisdom. And then contact details. My website is www.jonathanperks.com, JONATHANPERKS.com. My wife, Lee, Leigh, at Clareo, CLAREO, potential, POTENTIAL.com. And we're doing some work on our charity website at the moment, the Inspiringly. So that's going to be coming up in a month or two later. But yeah, happy to bounce ideas off people if it helps them. And just remember that as a personal trainer, you are really changing lives and touching lives, and make sure that the experience that they have is a good one.
Yeah, thank you to finish
for having me on your show.
And yeah, just to touch on what you just said there, just to really wrap this up, it is quite possible, and I've experienced this myself, where clients do speak of you in that light of life-changing. You've actually changed my life, rather than you helped me lose a couple of pounds and a dress size, which leaves a lasting impression, a memorable experience with that client forever. And by implementing what we spoke about and taking it further, trainers can also achieve that. So I appreciate your time, Jonathan. It's been really insightful, very inspiring, and I'm sure the trainers agree with me.
Well, thanks. It's been a pleasure being with you, Joe, and I wish you every success. I'm very impressed with what you're doing as a business. I've enjoyed the interactions that we've had, and I think that you role model what you're talking about, so I wish you every success.
Wow, Jonathan Perks, a very smart man. Thank you once again for giving up your time and energy for this show. The Fitman Collective group is going through a massive upgrade as we speak. So do make sure that you pop over to www.thefitmancollective.com website. You can also get access to the show notes, links, and any recommended resources that were mentioned in the show. Again, that web address is www.thefitmancollective.com.
Thank you for listening to the Fitman Collective podcast. This is your life. Don't settle for mediocre. Don't settle for average. Don't even settle for great. Beware the average man who attracts an average companion. Beware the great man who believes they've achieved everything and appears just a little too comfortable. Don't be them. Become the patient wolf. The Fitman Collective is waiting for you. Know yourself. With us, reinvent yourself and your place in this world. Body, mind, health, relationships, career, money, all of it, and more. We can never be caught. We can never be categorized. The Fit Man Collective reinvents the future of the Fit Pro. The Fit Man makes his own fate. Join us at thefitmancollective.com.